Your favorite fat boys.
Man, what it's like, bitch.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite fat boy, Jarron.
Stefan, a.k.a. Mayhem, a.k.a. your Clonidine Cowboy, a.k.a. the resurrection of Sigmund Freud.
What kind of cowboy again?
Clonidine.
What that mean?
That is a drug for individuals who have some mental disturbances.
Oh. Do I need it? Can I take it? What benefits does it have? Mental disturbances. I ain't got nothing done.
You do, but probably not anything that Clonidine is for.
Oh boy, welcome to the podcast, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving, because we're recording this on Thanksgiving Day. Stephen, what are you thankful for on Thanksgiving Day?
Do I need to be thankful for stuff?
It's just a question.
I'm thankful that I'm alive.
Oh, okay, great. Fantastic. Let's see, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful that I'm also alive. And somewhat well. I'm thankful for my close friends, Stefan, and I'll shout them out real quick. Tiffany, Mike, Sharina, Jasmine, Dominique. Am I missing somebody?
I wouldn't know.
Oh, I give you a list of people.
Should I look at the list?
I look at the list. That's terrible.
They your friends.
I know, right? I got everybody. All right. I'm also thankful for my mom and my dad and my brother. Those people I talk to on an everyday basis.
Just one brother? Don't you got two?
I got two, yes, but I don't talk to him that often. Not that there's anything going on between us, but when he comes to visit, we know he comes up. We chit chat, we hang out as a family. So, but yeah, that's it. So I have a very small family. So, and what else we got to talk about today? So let's see. This week we got the verdict for Kyle Rittenhouse, found not guilty
on all charges.
On all charges.
On all charges.
So
not a one.
He paid somebody off.
He didn't have to. The judge was on his side from the beginning of the trial.
Very much so.
I mean, I kind of felt like the prosecution was on his side from the beginning of the trial too, because that was a shit show if I've ever seen one.
It was disheartening to see. It reminded me of, what's that guy's name? Brock something. Like that swimmer. That swimmer who raped
Brock Turner.
Yeah, Brock Turner.
The rapist.
Yeah, the rapist who, because he was a swimmer, the judge said, he didn't want to
ruin his life.
His life by, convicting him of rape. And it reminded me so much of that, because, it was so much white privilege in this, it wasn't even funny. So, but, are we surprised? No. It's just kind of I don't know, you can be shocked by it.
Oh, I wasn't. I mean, I knew what the verdict was going to be.
Yeah, as soon as the judge started, saying the things he was saying, and how he's kind of and the fact that Kyle was able to select his own jurors, said a lot. I had never seen that before, and during the trial.
Got to pick the jurors out of a box, whatever. Again, just by the way that the judge went about it, saying that you can't call the people who were shot victims, but you could call them rioters or arsonists if they were doing that.
But if I got shot, I'm not a victim. I guess not in that state.
And the fact that the judge didn't allow evidence where Kyle posted on social media the day before that he wanted to go shoot looters. The day before he went and shot people, he posted that he wanted to do that. So, yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, the fact that this young man, boy, to have his mother driving from whatever state he was from to, was it Wisconsin? Mm-hmm. Yes, Wisconsin.
To Kenosha
with the AR-15 over state lines for him to participate and be some kind of vigilante hero.
Let's make sure we get the facts straight. He didn't travel across state lines with the gun. When he crossed the state lines, he went and got the gun, which he couldn't legally own or legally purchase. The person bought it and then allowed him to take it.
Oh, okay. I thought he traveled with the gun.
No, he went and got the gun.
So why? God damn! Why is it so easy for people? Why is it so easy for people to get guns they don't need? What's wrong with these gun laws here?
So then again, they want to scream self-defense, but if I go looking for a fight and the fight comes to be, Is that really self-defense?
No. You getting your ass beat.
But
you're hollering self-defense.
Not surprising. Not surprising at all.
No. And it's crying. It did nothing for me. I didn't believe I don't believe he was remorseful one bit.
Oh gosh, no. I mean, he's a young white supremacist doing what white supremacists do, and now all they doing is signaling for the other folks that are doing protests. Shoot, motherfuckers, you'll probably get off.
Yeah, unfortunately. In other news, we have Elijah McCain. His family reached a $15 million settlement from the Aurora, Colorado Police Department. So is that a victory?
I mean, I won't call it a victory because these police payouts, one, they come from taxpayer dollars. Make the police officers and the paramedics who killed the boy pay. Then I guarantee you'll see a lot of changes in the way they proceed with handling these types of situations.
I think it's a good idea.
Because again, it's coming from taxpayers. The police officers and the paramedics who killed the boy, they won't ever feel it.
Yeah. Because it's like, why would... The whole ordeal with him was just crazy within itself, and then the paramedics are giving him a shot to subdue him in a sense.
Yeah, a sedative where one, they didn't even remotely measure the dosage. Two, this was an individual who was probably on the autistic spectrum, and they confronted him. He didn't know what was going on. They bring him down. Now his brain is going all over the place trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I mean, if you listen to the video and how he was like, I'm just like you. I'm just a little different, and he pleading for his life, and motherfucking, he still died. So again, $15 million is great for the family, but it doesn't bring back a person's life. And then the police officers and the paramedics who killed the boy, they don't ever feel it.
Yeah, and then it's also too is what changes it bring to the police department or to that community there, as far as like how is this being handled.
Right.
If you're a person who's autistic, there should be some kind of training involved to kind of, I guess, to learn, to know how to approach this person.
I mean, the fact of the matter was that he wasn't even the person of interest that they were looking for.
He wasn't? No, he wasn't.
They got a call about somebody suspicious, if I'm not mistaken, and then he just happened to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. You police, I tell you. I mean, it's not all the police are bad, but y'all ones who handle these cases, being involved in these situations, damn. But anyway, and then we had the verdict for Ahmaud Arbery's killers happened. Was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday or the day before.
And they got him. They got him, and they got him.
Justice?
They got that ass.
I mean, I don't know if this is a celebration, seeing as how, he did get gunned the fuck down.
Yeah, they said it right. It was a modern day lynching.
So, I mean, more justice would have been they never confronted him and he never got killed. But I guess this is, some modicum of resolve for the family at the very least, that his killers are gonna go to jail. Yeah,
now we just wait for the verdict and see for how long. Because I think the guy who recorded everything, he got the lesser sentence out of all three of them. So he probably won't do as much time.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, and it still shocks me that the reason that the video even came out was because the guy who recorded it figured that if he showed the video, it would admonish them, and it would prove that they're not guilty of any wrongdoing.
I got evidence against us. I think when you see this, it will show that we acted in the right here. Okay, let's look at it. Ooh, y'all did this.
But shout outs to the jury for understanding that what they did was a crime.
Yeah, and the fact that I think when they were cross-examining the son, the prosecutor, I guess you want to call it, the prosecutor asked him, "Did he pose a threat to you?"
Yeah, no, because he didn't.
Was he doing anything wrong? No. They asked me these little series of questions, And he just said no to everything because, in all actuality, he wasn't posing a threat. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just jogging.
He was running.
And because they saw a nigga run, they were like, oh, he must be doing something wrong.
So, yeah, they saw him in the house and then they saw him run. It's like, time for that citizen's arrest.
Billy, get the gun. We gonna get us a nigger. Yeehaw, Paul. It didn't go down like that, but in my mind, that's maybe how they might have talked.
Yeah, I don't think that's what happened.
So, like you said, are any of these really, well, Elijah McCain and Ahmaud Arbery situation, are these really victories in a sense? You gotta take the good with the bad, you know, and keep it rolling with the punches, and hopefully laws get changed. And when they say to defund the police, they, you know, have a plan as to how they want to address a situation like this. Because in Elijah McCain's situation, if they had somebody trained properly, they could saw he wasn't a threat.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of places are rolling out new initiatives where they have social workers and mental health workers and case workers that go to these police callings as opposed to the guys who know how to shoot folks.
Right.
So we'll see how that works. Maybe it'll get to a point where it's widespread and we can have a more equitable society.
Hopefully. Well, shit, we can't get people who didn't get COVID shots, so that's a whole nother story. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, what else we got going on? So, November is Men's Mental Health Month. So even though we at the end of November, we still want to touch on a couple of things regarding, you know, mental health and, you know, what to look for, you know, how to address it, and I guess where you can go to get some help if you can. So, I guess the first question we got to ask is, you know, how do we handle our mental health? So, Stefan, when you get into a pickle with yourself, how do you, you know, address those thoughts and feelings?
I'm not a good example to go by.
Why is that?
I don't get into a pickle with myself. So that I don't have depression. So that I don't have, you know, depressed moments. I don't really get anxious. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's a mental health issue in and of itself, that I'm so even keeled, regardless of the situation.
Ain't no wrong with him. He won't take the drugs.
So that I am so even keeled, regardless of the situation, because it's probably something in and of itself. But you know, your personality disorders are a bitch. But again, so I'm not a great example because that's how I handle these things. It's just I don't care.
Well, I think for me. I've never been diagnosed with anything regarding mental health. Anxiety, let me ask you this: what's the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack? Are they the same, or?
Well, those depend on the situation and the severity of the attack.
Okay. So
they can be similar, but they're not quite. The situation determines which one it is, whether you're having a panic attack or an anxiety attack.
Well, I thought about anxiety, and I remember one time I got into a car accident. And when I got my car back and was driving again, I used to work. I had work nights from like 3:30 to 12. So when we got up 12 o'clock, I hit the highway to get home, and it was very, very dark outside. And the highway, you know, it's barely lit. Like it's like, you know, street lights like every so often. So the only thing I had for my visibility was just my headlights and maybe some light here and there. And I can remember just because of that accident, I was like really, really tense. And just like, was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like every little movement I made or someone made flying by me, it added just like another level of maybe panic in a sense, or just like kind of just being scared. Plus, I think it was snowing too, or it was like lightly snowing. So it was like, oh my God, these conditions aren't good. I can barely see. I just want to get home. And then when I finally got home, I was like, shh. So that's one time I think I can think of that where I had like some kind of anxiety issue. Mm-hmm. If I was being depressed, I've had my moments where I've been sad, you know, given like what's going on with me health wise, and just like dealing with like the doctors or, you know, trying to get proof of insurance, things like that. Like I've had kind of moment where like, you know, when is this going to go through? When we get it done? But when I think about depression, I don't think that I've, you know, had like a long stint in depression. Especially when I think about like how depression is presented when you look at movies, they show somebody, kind of like laying in bed all day long.
Yeah, but that's not really depression, though.
Yeah.
That's just how they characterize it so that you can see in that show or movie that someone is depressed. Depression can look like a whole lot of different things. You can see a person, they can act normal, all day, happy, cheerful, but they be severely depressed. So you can't really tell what depression is. I mean, you can see some different changes in a person's behavior, a really negative, sad affect, but that's not always the case.
Yeah. And I think, like you, I've always been an even keel kind of a person. Like, I'm not terribly sad one moment and happy the next, or go through, kind of mood swings in that sense. But I also haven't felt the need to go get diagnosed and see if I suffer from anxiety or depression, because I don't have these feelings all the time. It's like if something happens, it's like, and then I go about my business. Or I've learned to, talk my problems out with people that I trust. Like, I talk to my mom a lot if something's going on. A couple close friends. I rely heavily on when something's going on, just get your input on things. And you won't ever give me advice per se, but you present me the choice in a way that makes sense for me to, to either move forward or take a step back altogether.
Right.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, not a problem. That's what I do. One of the things I went to school for.
Oh, that's right. You do have a minor in psychology?
Yeah.
So do you use that to your everyday, I don't say everyday advantage, but do you use it, to cope with anything, or do you read people very well because of that?
To a degree. I mean, one of the reasons that I got into psychology was because I wanted to understand myself, because of the fact that I felt like I was a lot weirder and a lot different than everybody else. So I got into psychology to try to understand me, and then it helps to understand people, because my focus in that degree field was clinical therapy and behavior modification, and I would have gotten a degree in it, but they wanted you to do a semester of an unpaid intern, and I said, fuck that. But yeah,
your money.
Right. But it's not so much helping with the coping, but it said helping to cope with situations, but understanding the mentality behind it, and why people feel the way they feel. Because again, that was part of the reason was that understanding of why certain behaviors exist, why people feel a certain way about things. And then it kind of helps me to not so much relate, but to understand and have some degree of a sympathetic response to these types of things.
Okay. So in the last 3 years of me being on dialysis, how would you I guess like characterize my balance or my behavior in the last couple of years, if you could?
How can we put this gingerly?
Gingerly.
No, I'm messing with you. No. It said, truth be told, you have been more, I'm not going to say upbeat, but more positive about the situations, because you've been on dialysis and you've been having a shit ton of issues dealing with, the insurance so that you can get put on to transplant list. But you've been far more upbeat about the situations. There's other areas where I can see that needs some work, especially when it comes to like interpersonal relationships, but that's a completely different story. But at least from as far as the medical situation goes, you've been very upbeat about it. We've had phone conversations where I can feel that that energy has taken a dip, but it remains at a pretty high level in comparison to someone else would be in a similar situation.
Well, thank you. That's like a common consensus, I guess is the word that I get from a lot of people that may not talk to me in a while, and I tell them what's going on, and they're like, "Oh man, you're so positive. You're really upbeat. Like, it's infectious. And you're still the same." And I'm like, "Have I changed to a certain extent?" I think a little bit, because I understand what's going on within me and around me, but there's no point in me being negative and being sad, like, "Oh, no, I'll never get on the list," or "I'll never get this, I'll never get that." If it's the will, I'm going to say God's will. Well, I'm a religious person to a certain extent. But if it's my path to get these transplants, then I get them. If it's not, then so be it. but we're gonna lean towards me getting these transplants so I can live, a more healthy and a better life.
I mean, well, it's sort of that in respect to that mindset is sort of, I guess, the running joke that a lot of people have with me when they ask me how I'm doing, and they always answer the question before I answer it because they know I'm gonna say fantastic.
Right.
Because I would say the only thing I can control is in this life is my outlook on it. So why not be fantastic?
And think about when you say that to people, it's like I've seen it. They're like, "Oh, wonderful myself," like I'm fantastic too, and then it's a cheery disposition, so that energy transfers to them. So for me, somebody says, I'm not a morning person, not whatsoever. You got 5 good mornings out of me. So I belong to my mother, my father, the dog, and 2 people at dialysis. After that, it's just mumbles with me.
Oh, I mean, I don't even say good morning to people. I just announce the time of day. Because I'm not going to be so impetuous to think that your morning is going good. So somebody says, good morning. I'm like, morning. Because it is morning. I don't know whether or not your morning is good.
Right. Yeah, because I hate just like saying, like, I guess for me is that I don't like acknowledging people too many times.
Oh.
It's like, it's like, hey, how you doing?
Oh, see, you treat good mornings like I treat text. You got 5 good texts out of me, then I'm done.
That's so true with him. You could test that on a question, and you got about 3 follow-up questions after that, and he's done. So one thing, I think one thing when dealing with mental health too, I think how we normalize certain traumas as well. One thing I wrote down a note in my notes is how we normalize, hood trauma, drug use, gun violence, police violence. How do these things have an effect on us?
Now, is that a question?
That's a question.
Asking? I mean, that's
you from the hood.
That is true. And again, I'm not a great example to ask on how these things have.
So we need to get some out the street then.
I mean, I am out the street. It's not a good example to ask. But no, it's again. But the thing about trauma is that everything affects people differently. People are not a monolith in and of themselves. So we were in a situation where we got held up at gunpoint.
Yes.
Now think about how we reacted during and after the situation. Each individual that was there had completely different reactions to the exact same stimuli. So, there's no way to say that, how does this affect everybody, because we don't know. It has to be on an individual basis.
Okay.
So in that respect, for me, I grew up in the hood. So there was these types of situations all around, but at the end of the day, moving forward, I just kind of brushed it off, and it doesn't really affect me in my life now. But for somebody else, that's probably a completely different situation.
They probably were more involved in it, where you took a distance from it.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many times you can run from the cops before that shit just becomes old.
That's a very true statement. Cause I was thinking about not gang violence, but I was watching some special on Vice, and they were talking about how this psychiatrist maybe, was talking about how these young men and young women in these neighborhoods in Compton were experiencing death at such a young age, and seeing their family members use drugs at such a young age, and she said that, to a certain extent, these kids have a form of PTSD because, they're seeing traumas and they kind of normalize it, like, well, that's just Uncle so-and-so, shooting up drugs, or... Oh, yeah, I mean,
it most certainly happens. I said people assume when it comes to post-traumatic stress that it's only people who've been in, like, active combat or something, but the thing about post-traumatic stress is that if you consistently been a part of traumatic incidents, you can develop PTSD, regardless of whether or not you've been in a war zone.
I agree with that 100%. So hopefully the hood gets better.
I mean, the thing about hood trauma is that it's not really just in the hood. Those types of situations happen everywhere. Now, you just expect it to happen in the hood. That's why you called it hood trauma. But honestly, those types of things happen everywhere.
You're right about that. It doesn't just happen in black communities.
Right.
It's everywhere. So how should one address their mental health? Are they feeling off, or just know they know that something's just not right within them?
First and foremost is have someone to talk to. I don't care if it's a cat that you have someone to talk to, something to talk to vocalize the way you feel. Mm-hmm. So especially if you're feeling severely depressed, you're feeling suicidal, call somebody. I'm guaranteeing somebody would rather be annoyed by a phone call from you than be annoyed and saddened by having to attend your funeral. So again, have something or someone to talk to. And if that doesn't work, reach out to a mental health professional. Seek professional help. But at the very least, have someone to talk to unload these situations. Mm-hmm. And don't only call that person to only unload. Because again, the thing about PTSD is that you can get it secondhand. So if I only call you to unload all of my trauma onto you, right, I am in turn helping you to live my trauma. And so you can be affected by that as well. So, don't only call somebody because you're feeling depressed and sad and you need to talk. Call them for that, but, call them with good things as well. Balance it out.
That's a very good point. Because one thing I try to tell myself is that I'm pouring out to you, I'm going to let you pour into me. And, so whether that's good or bad, it's like it needs to be a flow of going both ways. Not just, oh man, they were shitty, but I also try to, hey, this is what good has happened, and then also try to make sure that when I'm talking to somebody, ask them what's going on with you, how are you doing? Because I might have a lot on my plate, but I also want to know how that person's doing as well.
Right.
Now, one question I got for you is that I know for you quite a few people that unload on you. How do you deal with that weight, or you just don't let it affect you at all, of that person?
I scream into the void. No. I mean, granted that, again, one of the things that I went to school for, my focus was clinical therapy. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of used to it, and I guess people see that in me. Mm-hmm. That whole, he's a good listener, he has decent suggestions and can kind of veer me to the right path. But again, doesn't care. That's not inaccurate. That's not inaccurate. But then again, I say that's what makes me a great therapist, is because I am completely removed from it. As I said, from the situation, both physically and emotionally. So I am so detached from it that I can have a very objective view of these things.
That's true.
But again, I'm not a great example.
So we need to get a better example from the streets here. If you want to come on the podcast and you got some, some certificates of you being a therapist or psychiatrist, it can, be a better example than this fellow over here. We welcome you.
No, but that's just me. But again, it works for me to keep myself distant, because if I was so emotionally invested, then that secondhand feedback that I was talking about earlier would be something that I would fall prey to a lot. Because there are quite a few people who unload on me.
I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, how someone like who treats a therapist? Who therapists therapy?
A lot of therapists do have therapists. Yeah,
it was a great show on HBO where they would show like a therapist going through different patients, and then he had a therapist himself, and I was like, huh. I just didn't expect it at that time, looking at the show and everything. But it makes perfect sense, though.
A lot of therapists have therapists.
How can you take on that weight and know how to deal with, like you said, like you can't get so close to it. Like you have to learn how to distance yourself to a certain extent. So, you do a good job at it.
So after this many years, I think I perfected my version of it.
Right.
And also, I'm going to have the suicide prevention number at the bottom of this, so people can, if you feel like you having those type of ideations, suicidal ideations, call, because those types of things are fleeting. And and another thing that people might want to get into, especially people who are severely depressed or anxious, write stuff down. Write the way you're feeling and in the moment down. Because once you start to write, once you get it out, you'll find yourself starting to calm down. So that's another coping mechanism that you could utilize, writing things down.
I agree with you 100%. And I think, finding somebody to talk to, whether it be, like you said, it can be a plant, a cat, but somebody that you trust, even if they don't have the answers per se, but just kind of getting off your chest and not holding it in and having it bottled in, saying something just beats better than doing nothing. So I agree with that.
And I will add on to that, when you're talking to someone, don't expect someone to have the answers. Because that'll get you in a situation where you're looking at that person like, oh, you steered me wrong because you didn't tell me what I needed to do. Don't expect someone to have the answers for you. The answers will come to you as you let stuff go and get stuff off your chest. But don't expect the person that you're talking to just have all the answers.
Right. Because with our friendship, as well as being friends with over 20 years, before I come to you with something, I'll just put everything out there from the beginning to the end of it. The good, the bad, what I could have did, what I did do wrong, what I could have did better, and then it's like, okay, let me present this let me call Stefan and maybe see if I was going in the right direction, or if I need to take a step back, or maybe looking from a different perspective altogether. Because I want to feel like I'm right, I was right in a situation where it's like, well, shit, you could have been wrong.
Right.
So I think everybody should talk to somebody. I do have a friend who I won't say, she don't listen to the podcast, but she need to talk to some goddamn body, and she just keeps a lot of shit bottled in, and it's like, wow. If you talk to somebody, you would learn how to deal with situations better instead of just self-medicating and popping a pill or edible, or smoking some weed or drinking, and thinking that, okay, I'm feeling good, my problems are gone away, but in all actuality, haven't. So
right.
And if you are someone who self-medicates, I would say just be careful with that, because that can be a long, dark road going down, and the recovery can be even longer, because then you develop some kind of addiction.
Yeah, and if you're in a situation where you're always having problems, then you always need your medication, quote unquote.
Right.
So that's a dark path no one needs to go down.
Yes, indeed, because alcoholism, drug abuse are very real things.
Very much so.
So I guess to wrap up things with Men's Mental Health Month, it's okay to say you're not okay. It's okay to get help. It's okay to talk. It's okay to express feelings that you have. It's okay just to, I guess, to cry, to say I need help, and any and everything you could think of. I guess with some way to say, hey, I need to talk to you, or I need to talk to someone. It's okay.
Right. So we live in a society that emasculates men who have feelings, but every human has feelings. So if you have feelings, feel them. And don't be afraid to feel them because of the fact that you think that it's emasculating or it makes you less of a man. It makes you more of a man to understand your feelings.
Ooh, that's a word. That's a gem. Put that. You got put that. You got to put that here.
Right at the bottom.
Yeah. Say it again.
It makes you more of a man to understand your feelings.
Ooh, touch my soul. That's the only thing that's giving me warmth here in the basement. So with that being said, sign us out, Stefan.
All right, so that's the show. As always, you can check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
So thank you for watching the show. Thank you for listening. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Peace out.
Peace.